Hi and welcome to our very quick online demonstration of Solar, which is our Office 365 toolkit. It's probably just worth mentioning that all of the features we're going to show you today we can price accordingly to your organisation. So some clients we work with are opting to go for a subscription model whereby they pay a small upfront fee and then an ongoing subscription. Some just want to have access and do it on more of a proprietary thing. So we can do either one of those. So just a very quick intro about us and Solar and Brighter Days. So Brighter Days, we're very much workplace productivity experts. We very much veer on the side of the business side of things in terms of IT. And as you can see there, we're very much about making workplaces in New Zealand more productive with some of the tools that they're already paying for. So Office 365 being a primary example of that. We're based in Christchurch. We do have a presence on the North Island in Auckland with some clients up there already. And we're 4 people looking to hire a 5th and 6th person in the next coming months, up and coming months. But very much Office 365 and SharePoint consultants by trade, and yeah, really have put together Solar with all the experience that we have from the last sort of 10-15 years collectively. So in terms of what we do, the stuff along the bottom is the technology. However, what I would stress is that that's not really the important stuff here. The important stuff we are really seeing is around how businesses adopt some of these Office 365 tools and technologies, and we actually don't build a whole lot these days. So what we try to do is really come up with a solution that's all about user adoption and helping users make the most out of some of these technologies. So we've really just ironed out some of the creases in Office 365 and SharePoint and put a wrapper around it to make it super easy for business users to use. So as we mentioned, Solar is the vehicle that we use to deliver some of this. All of the features we've created really do leverage out-the-box features and functionality in some way. And what we've done is we've just added to that to increase and improve user experience. But any additional information you need, all available on the Solar website. In terms of the clients we've worked with, now these won't all be Solar, but certainly Office 365 and SharePoint clients. You'll see there's a lot of the big boys on the South Island, and really that list is growing. We very much excel in the probably 50 to 2,000 number of employees is probably our sweet spot. Quite a broad range, I know, but that tends to be most of the big companies and large companies in New Zealand, and we do learn quite a lot from working with those particular clients time and time again. So let's talk to you a bit about Solar. So the purpose of Solar really is that it increases value in the digital workplace on an ongoing basis. So if you take a traditional intranet, what used to happen was on the day of launch, the value would diminish quite quickly over a very short space of time. Within 3 years, it was almost sort of it was ready for a big improvement. So what we're trying to do with Solar is try and change and buck that trend. Is really launch something and then really constantly add and continue to improve that experience over time. So certainly on our subscription model, the idea is you're constantly getting access to new features and new enhancements which we're putting out into our Solar package, and really that will increase value over time rather than diminish very quickly. So this is probably one of the most important slides I would stress in this presentation, and this is really what does a modern workplace, what is a digital workplace, what does it look like in the future. So if you look at the boxes along the bottom, there's 5 there which really I think probably cover about 90% of collaboration within a business, and those are the modules that we've built. So if we take compliance first of all, compliance really is about getting metadata and content types and classifications and good records management in place. It's really not the sexy and exciting stuff, but it's the stuff that really does make it super easy for users to find stuff going forward and make sure that things are classified as they should be. But all of that kind of thing has been taken away. We come to you and say, right, which of these do you need, rather than you telling us and not really knowing what it is you want. The second box you'll see there is organisation. So we do have an intranet template, an intranet in a box. The idea is that really that's probably what most people need from an organisational intranet. It's where you store your documents, your manage documents, your policies, your procedures. It's stuff that all users in the organisation should be able to access. Now that may be made up of 1 to 5 organisation sites. This is where it's sort of going in the future, but the idea is they're all using an organisation template and anyone can access them, and it really has a consistent look and feel. The third box you'll see on there is BAU. Now we used to call those team sites in old money. BAU sites are really departmental areas or areas for a specific community of interest. We'll demonstrate those. And then we've got projects. So projects and projects like could probably be bundled into one, but really that's how you manage and run internal projects. If you're a large organisation, maybe you're a consultancy or you're a professional services business and that's what you do for a living, and that gives you a consistent way to run projects and to share information on those projects. Now that's probably about 85–90%, as I mentioned, of most user cases. And then what we kind of see is that there's the glue that we need in the wrapper and the container. So things like search and having a mega menu and a shared navigation on every single site that looks the same is only a good thing from a usability perspective. So those are the two components that we've added that kind of really span across the whole solution and bring that together to really give it that kind of joined up look and feel. So we often get asked the question, why can't we just turn SharePoint on out of the box or Office 365 out of the box? You absolutely can do that. However, what we find is certainly for the businesses of size, that will probably only deliver about 50% of what you need from a business sense. More often than not, you probably don't have the skills in-house to manage that or to know what features or what widgets are in there. So really, we do see people run into a little bit of trouble just turning stuff on and hoping for the best. So what we've kind of done really with Solar and our toolkit is we've kind of done some configuration and some development, which we really think adds probably an extra 45% to the out-of-the-box features. So, and what that all means is that if Microsoft do push out any updates, any features, it's all been built in such a way that it won't break, and it's really been built with best practice in mind. There is the 5% of heavy customization that you could do. We highly discourage you to do that. Reasons being that you could run into a lot of problems if Microsoft do change their code base or push out updates. So generally, we're looking for the first 3 lines on that slide there. Now there are about 27–28 applications in Office 365. We would encourage you to kind of explore all of those, but really for the Solar solution of what we see that most businesses need, we're looking at Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Flow, SharePoint Online, Stream, and Yammer. Stream is enterprise video. If you haven't seen or don't know what that is, Microsoft Flow is for workflow. Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and Yammer. There's plenty of information out there, but those are the 5 we use in our solution. So Solar's really been designed for the end user. We went and did some research, and what we found is that marketing and operations and CIOs and IT managers and CEOs all have different needs, but ultimately they all revolve around the employee. So how do we help employee Ed in this instance to really go about his day more effectively? So that's really how we've designed Solar. It's not about the tech first and what can we get SharePoint to do. It's about what are daily tasks that employee Ed needs to do on a daily basis. Now, what we're finding is that a lot of users, they're often quite mobile, and this is stuff that spans time and time again. Certainly the mobile users, they want to know what's going on, they want to communicate better with other offices, they want to hear from senior leadership, they'd love to talk about their work more, and want to feel part of a community, so they'd love to feel more part of a social scene. And yeah, if you're on the road quite a bit, then that's going to be quite hard. What a typical day looks like for them, though, however, is it's just chaos and carnage and then battling with systems. So they can't find policies, they can't find people, they're not connecting with their employees, and it's not unheard of that, certainly for those mobile workers, they'll end up doing another day's work when they get home at 4 p.m, 5 p.m, because they've had to battle with the system. So we're trying to address some of those issues. Now, what does that look like in the future from certainly for mobile worker or any worker for that fact? We kind of see this concept of circles and inner circles going on. So if you take Mary, who's our mobile worker here, she works in Team Green. She's got her inner circle, which is the purple stuff, and that's probably people in her team she's having daily conversations with, day in, day out. So we're looking to leverage Microsoft Teams for those inner circle conversations where you can capture conversations and share files, etc., all in one place. However, Mary works in a fairly large organisation, and the reality is she's probably going to want to tap into experience in Team Yellow, Team Red, or Team Orange, that she doesn't necessarily know who it is that might provide that, might have that skills or expertise, but she knows she needs to tap into that. Likewise, she wants to access news, policies, and processes. With Yammer and SharePoint communication sites, we can provide access to those as well. So it's been really clear about what is it the user wants to do at any particular time, and having a mechanism and having the right tools to do that. The same applies for Ian, who works in Team Red. He might not necessarily be a mobile worker, he might be a desktop worker, but the same applies. He will have a different set of conversations, a different inner circle, and likewise he might want to tap into resources and information in the organisation who happen to be in different teams. And what we're trying to do here with Solar is provide information that does all of that. So in terms of the problems we're solving, there's 5 key areas which we're addressing here with Solar. The first one being communications. Now, there's 3 big collaboration killers and communication killers we see in most large organisations. The first one is their current intranet. It's stale, it's tired, people can't find stuff, there's too many documents on there, it's too noisy. Unfortunately, they're quite tired and they get a bit of a bad rep. Shared drives and file shares tend to be another big blocker. So everything gets stored in a folder structure that people don't necessarily have access to, or they have access to things they shouldn't have access to, vice versa. So shared drives are a bit of a killer. And email is the other one. People are dying and really drowning in email. The amount of email that gets sent, everything is email. So those 3 things, 3 systems and tools really do kill collaboration of business of size. So what do we do about that? So with Solar, it's probably worth mentioning that it's mobile first. So everything we've designed in Solar is around a mobile user and the ability that they should have the ability to just go on and go on and onto a mobile device and do their job. So the first thing we've created is this People Finder app. And what you can see here, makes it super easy for users to go and search by name, search by job title, by office, by location, and instantly find details of the person they're looking for. With that, they can go and make a quick phone call, send a quick email, and they've found that person within seconds, rather than having to log on to a system, try and do a search and the person not existing. So having a People Finder app is a big ask and a big question that a lot of people ask. So that's hopefully providing details for that. The other thing that's worth mentioning is Solar works on every single native app that Microsoft produced. So this is the native SharePoint app. The idea being this becomes a personalized area, personalized view of the world for the employees. So they'll be able to see news and updates from all the sites and teams that they're subscribed to. Likewise, they'll be able to find people, and they'll be able to sort of search sites for files, etc., all using the native SharePoint app. So that's something which we feel is a really big asset to Solar, the fact that it works on those apps. So remote access is a big request we see, the ability to be able to log in from anywhere. Some organisations are still battling with VPNs and quite complicated sort of systems and tools to log on to a network. Certainly with Office 365 and Solar, you can log on from anywhere in the world and you can get access to the tools and systems that you need. So that's a big win for a lot of people. The other thing that's worth mentioning around Solar and for BAU sites, etc., is the ability to add external users. Now, this comes up time and time again, whereby we just want to be able to add an external user for a shared collaboration space, a shared project space. If you've got an email address, you can add an external user now, as simple as that. And I think what we're going to see is more and more companies become a little bit more open in terms of how they share information. And this happens time and time again. Whereby you might want to provide access to third parties or contractors, etc. So looking at communications, one of the things we use on our intranet and our organisation site is this communication site template. As you can see here, it's very graphic rich, it's very minimalistic, and you can add some really good looking content using out the box page templates. You can add graphs, you can add widgets onto here, all using out the box features. Likewise, you can add third-party tools, or you can add things like Yammer from a social perspective to really create some good-looking content for your organisation. It's probably worth mentioning that all of these pages we can create will be based using our template. So our IA template, and we'll have about 250 pages which will come to you and say, right, which of these 250 do you need? And what you'll see is that we've also created a very simple navigation and information classification under what's happening, how do I, and about us. So how do I, really the idea is that the users go on and onto the tool and they find information about how to do a certain task with simplicity. What you'll see there is that we've created these icons. They actually are fonts and they load super fast, so we don't have big images loading behind them, and these can be created by the user. There's 957 icons you can tap into, and it makes it super easy for the user to navigate around the system. So once again, that's really going to speed up the build of the site, having those 250 pages which you just do a pick and mix from. You say, yep, we want those, and we actually call that particular page X or that particular page Y. So that essentially gives us what we need to go and create all the pages running a script, which takes less than a couple of days to actually run. So Sway is a tool you could use to create really good looking employee content. Think an ebook, e-brochure, that kind of thing. If you've got employee benefits, you could potentially use it for that. You can add videos, etc. This is just out of the box. In Sway, but yeah, so really probably good if you're looking to create something that's a bit more than a PowerPoint or a Word or a PDF. Video is a big part of our solution. What I would say with video is that there's two options. You have Office 365 video, which is about to be retired, so I probably won't talk too much about that. The other option you've got for this is Stream. So Stream is enterprise video. Think YouTube for the enterprise, and Stream does a number of things. So it does things like broadcasts and town halls. If your CEO or CIO or CTO wants to do a broadcast, they can do that as a live broadcast. Likewise, it records meetings. If you've got any kind of team meetings that you want to record, you can do that. It does some pretty cool things as well around sort of auto transcribing of content. So, for example, if you have got an interview with someone that you want to, you've mentioned a particular subject, what it will do is it will automatically convert voice into text using AI, artificial intelligence, and cognitive services. It does some pretty cool stuff like adapting to the quality of the pipe as well, so you don't have any issues around streaming. But as you can see there, this guy is just talking. We've not had to do anything about that. It's just adding text, which all of that text becomes searchable. So if you want to search Star Wars, you can do a search and it will say, yeah, he mentioned Star Wars at 4 minutes 33 seconds. So really good for people trying to find content, video that's in the spoken word format. So the Stream is a big part of what we do and can be embedded into news and other features. We do have a marketplace feature in now. This is for buy, sell, rent, or if you want to do sort of internal trade me or internal eBay, that kind of thing. Once again, probably not a big business driver, but certainly from an employee engagement perspective and getting users using the tool, you may find this is a little nifty tool, and that's just something that's in the toolbox. So for social, this is a big part for us in terms of employee engagement. So we're using the Yammer native app in some instances, but really this is all about the planning and creating some groups that people want to use. It might be buy, sell, rent, it might be social groups, but it really creates that sense of community. And I think having this embedded onto your homepage is super useful as well. So as you can see there, the mobile app is super easy to use. However, what we really see is the value of this is Yammer being front and center and discussions being front and center of your intranet. So this is a really powerful tool for senior leadership to really tap into the employee voice and employee knowledge. You can do some cool things like create announcements, you can give shout outs, you can use hashtags. Yammer probably would deserve its own session in its own right, but certainly for those senior leadership teams that are trying to sort of tap into those employee voice and trying to get the most out of what's there, i.e. their people. Some good options in the social feature as well, but certainly front and center of the communication site that we use. So search is a super powerful tool. It's probably just worth mentioning what you get out the box versus the search solution we provide. So search out the box, to be fair, in modern sites is pretty average. You can see there it does the auto predict and it shows you all the content. However, it doesn't really give you any of those really powerful tools that you used to get in the classic search. So what we've done essentially is overridden search in all of the modern sites and the intranet sites to really give that kind of Google type search where you can search by type. So it might be people. So if I'm in this particular example, I'm trying to find a person who's an expert in travel. So it's mentioned that this guy here has got travel in his title. It might be that you're searching for a travel policy or travel procedure. So you can do refiners around policies and guides. It could be it's a video about travel as well. Really super easy to use. And likewise, you can add refiners as well, which we would sit down with you and really just work out what refiners you want to be able to filter on. So it could be policy, procedure. In this example, it could be skills, or it could be job title. All of this is just stuff that comes out of the planning phase, and I think it's really making the most of the SharePoint Classic Search, which is a really powerful tool. And we'll let the users just find stuff super easy. And as you can see here, I'm searching here for a certain skill. I'm an expert in sleeping, and it's managed to find that. So really a good tool to tap into finding those people with those specialist skills. It might be languages, it might be certain skills that are really useful and relevant for the rest of the organisation to know about. So news is a big thing. We're just leveraging the news template. As you can see here, this is the news widget. If I want to go in and just go in and create a news item, I can do so, and it will automatically add it there. In this instance here, I've created a Mother's Day promotion. You can create a back image, and if you can use Word, you can really create some nice looking content. You can add web parts and widgets to this. You can add bar charts and video web parts and whatnot. So really easy to use. And I think this is how you will engage with your employees going forward, by creating these really good looking news pages. You can play around with the template, play around with the layouts, and there's a number of page templates that you can leverage as well. So let's look at events as well. So if you do have any social events or have any business events that you use, this could be for anything. Could be training, induction, social. This is the events web part. You can have different types of event. You can categorize them. It might be by training, might be social, as I mentioned. All of these are just out the box. You can add images, you can add maps, you can add locations, and then you can subscribe to it. The other thing you can do is then send that round by email, so then they can just go in and subscribe and add it to their calendar. So really nice looking feature in Office 365 that's really going to add a lot of value to most organisations. So the compliance piece is really not the sexy stuff, but it's stuff which we feel really does drive records management and document management. So this is really the planning that we would sit down and do with you, where we'd ascertain what's the types of content you create in your organisation. So it could be policies, it could be procedures, it could be minutes. And the idea being we sit down and work out what all of those are, and then we add those to the right places and try to, where we possibly can, set the metadata and set these so they're defined automatically. So the user has to do minimal tagging, and that's really what we're aiming for in current age is for the users not have to sort of enter metadata as wherever we can help it. There may be some instances if you're a public sector organisation where you need that, but there's 250-ish content types which we will just do a pick and mix approach for you, and would say, okay, what do you actually need to use, and then that really makes it super easy for finding information. There's some other things we can do around disposal and retention as well. So if you do need to keep information for a certain period of time, or if you need to get rid of information after a certain time, so things like personal data, CVs, etc., we can apply labels and we can apply records management any given folder or site if we need to. So that's something which once again would come out of the planning that we would do with you. Once again, particularly relevant for public sector organisations, maybe not so much for private sector, but still a very valuable tool to have if you do get audited on a regular basis. So for BAU sites, this is really where we see team sites and collaboration happening. There's two flavors of BAU site that we now have. One's for teams and one's for projects. So we're going to show you sort of a bit about both of those. But before we do that, just worth mentioning that we're using Microsoft Teams really as the vehicle to do that. Now, the reason why we're using Microsoft Teams to create BAU areas and BAU sites is because you actually get quite a lot when you create a team. So you do get a SharePoint site to store files, but you get a planner, which is something like a Trello board. You get a video portal, you get Power BI, you get email, you get a wiki, you get chat, conversations. So there's a whole heap of stuff that you may not necessarily use straight away, but it's worth using at some point, if you can, and all get provisioned when you create the team. So Teams is accessible via the browser, so if you don't want to install the client, that's absolutely fine. You can also have the client version, which is what you see here, which does give you the full set of features in Microsoft Teams. It's probably worth mentioning is about 90% parity between Teams and the browser, so downloading the client is really advisable to get that full feature set. So what you see in terms of the concept of Teams is that you have your network, and then you can then start creating teams around the mechanism that wherever you wish. So in this instance here, we've created a team for each business area, which could be a good starting point. To get people off their shared drives, we're just going to create one for finance, one for HR, one for technology, and then you've got this concept of channels underneath, which is where you can then start, having targeted conversations. So creating a channel does one of two things. It allows you to have very targeted conversations. So in this instance here, we've got CVs, ERP projects, IT outages, certain topics. It also creates folders on the SharePoint site and the files area as well. So it becomes a really nice way to share information and collaborate as well. So how you create those channels is really entirely up to you, and we'll sit down with you and work out what the best way to do that is. As I mentioned as well, everything we build on Teams is going to work on the mobile site as well. The mobile app is really where we see most mobile workers hanging out, as they're going to have access to their files, they're going to have conversations, they can have one-to-one chats. It really becomes that sort of WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Dropbox all rolled into one. So the mobile app in Teams is very, very powerful. Another thing that's worth mentioning as well is around the file storage. So as I said, when you create a channel, if you click on the channel and you click on files, you'll get the files area. They're actually stored in the SharePoint site that gets created. There's all heaps of stuff you can do on the left-hand side as well. But in this instance here, we just want to do open up the SharePoint site, and you can see that there's a document library called Documents and a folder called General created, and that will be the same for every channel that you actually get. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is if you do want to use these for team management, they also get news, they get some quick links, they also get like a key contact there as well. So really good for those team sites. If you've got a department that really wants to be self-sufficient and share documents and share news, they could just have that on their own particular site rather than the whole intranet site. So yeah, but then you can see there's some other things in there that you might want to use as well. But all of these documents, these folders are created when you create the team or create the channel. So yeah, certainly for files for team site, that's an option. You can synchronize folders and files with your local machine as well. So very much like Dropbox. So that's a big win for certainly mobile workers who don't necessarily always have internet connection, might be stuck in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, just want to be able to get access to the most recent document. So you'll be able to see the most synchronized version of your libraries and your files. So super good for those mobile workers. As I mentioned, adding guests is really easy to do. If you want to be able to add external members, you can. You just have to go into the team. And again, add members, and then you just type their email address in. So you can turn this off if you do get a bit worried about security, but we're finding that for Teams it's really powerful for those organisations that do have a lot of external contractors, or they collaborate quite a lot with third parties, which is more and more so these days. So adding guests is part of that. And then the other thing we've added into Solar, into Microsoft Teams, is a different flavour of a team site. So we heard time and time again that people want to use Teams to run projects. So what we've actually done here is we've created a project template which gives you everything you need to run a project and uses Teams in the back end as well. So here we've got the commentary, value of the project. We've got the overall performance, which you can set. We've also then got individual KPIs that you can set at a project level, and that's just the SharePoint list running that. And then there's the task allocation where you can see what's the status of task, which is using Planner. And then we've got our risks and issues and decisions log, and then there's documents and confidential documents if you don't want to have all files shared as well. So what we've done here is we've tried to take what does a typical project need and have some consistency in that, and that's really going to be how you do project sites in the future. And you could roll that up to a central project register if you wanted to at some stage as well. You can also use Teams and BAU sites to make file collaboration and conversations around files super easy as well. So you can see here we've got a resource schedule. Now, in old days, we would have probably opened up an email, tried attaching the file on using email. We probably would have sent some comments that would have gone back and forth. Someone would have saved the file with LS comments or whatever, version 1, version 7. You can see how different we're going to do this. So now all I need to do is go in and edit the document. I know the version control is built into this, so it's going to be updating the most recent documents, so updating the most recent versions. I can make the changes, and then when I'm good to go, I can literally click the Start Conversation button, and that will automatically allow me to have a conversation around this document with all of the conversations being tagged against the document. So here I'm just going to notify Sean. I'm going to say, yeah, bit of a tough week we've got here, Sean. And what will happen is that this is just going to save that conversation against the document. So anytime that someone goes into that file, they'll be able to see the conversations that be going on against that file rather than an email conversation. It's in a completely separate system. So different way of working, I might add, but it's very much a better way of working and a bit more of an effective way of collaborating with your team members. Meetings are very useful. So if you want to be able to create online meetings, you can do that here. You can see here I've got I can schedule a meeting. I can just type in the meeting details. And the beauty about this is that the user doesn't have to download anything at the other end. So if you think about all of those meeting software tools that we use, you often have to download something, you have to install a plugin. All I have to do here is go in and add the external user. So here we're just going to do a test to Mickey Mouse. It will recognize that Mickey Mouse is using a Disney address, so he's outside of my organization, and it will automatically add Mickey Mouse to the meeting invite. So really useful for things like external meetings, interviews, that kind of stuff. Likewise, it might be we just want to have an internal meeting, and what will happen is that I can schedule this internal meeting, and it will automatically save it against the channel. So team meetings, that kind of thing. Any meeting notes you record will be saved against that as well. So meetings really, really good. It also does a meet now as a facility as well. So if you've got an IT outage or all hands on deck kind of situation, you can do an instant meeting and then bring everyone on board. And then if they've got the Teams app, etc., they just dial in. They get a notification. So yeah, really is online presence kind of often gets taken for granted, but all that kind of stuff is pretty useful. So instant meetings straight away. There is a nice command bar as well. It's got about 50, 60 kind of quick links and shortcuts as well. I won't dwell too much on that, but it's something I would encourage all your users to kind of start using, so you don't have to go. If you want to do a quick search, who does Nate report to, or where is Sean? It will give instant information. There are other features in Solar as well, which you may choose to use. Things like a leave request, which is a very simple leave request form. Granted, it's not the most complex, but better than paper for sure. So yeah, you may want to have a leave request tool that you use in Solar, and that's there if you kind of don't have any other alternative ways of doing that. Likewise, that can be approved by a manager if you want to as well. So going forward for the future of Solar, most of the things virtually all of the Q2, Q3 and Q4 things we've built. The guest list we're just finishing off, and then we're hoping to deliver some other key features in Q1 through to Q3 next year. That roadmap's constantly evolving, and we do believe in user voice as well. So by all means, do let us know if you've got any features that you're asking for, because if they're a good idea, we'll pop them into the product. There are some other tools as well, things like rostering, etc., which we will talk about. But ultimately, I think rostering is done by most professional services business elsewhere. If you do have any questions, please let me know. Hopefully this was good enough for a quick fire overview of what's in now, and you can rewind and you can replay any bits that you want to. Any questions, please let me know.